Let me begin with a prayer. Oh, Vayam Suputra Amrutasya Nunam Taveva Karyarthamiho Nishkama Buddhyartha Vipanna Seva Prabhu Tavaradhanamasmadiyam Prabhu Dehi Dehe Balam Dhairyamanta Sadacharamadarsh Bhutam Vicharam Yadasmabhirangi Kritam Punyakaryam Tavevashisha Purnatam Tat Prayatu Jivane Yavadadanam Syat Pradanam Tatodhikam Ityesha Prarthana Smakam Bhagavan Paripuryatam Tvameva Mata Ch Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Once again, pranam to all of you, and I'm grateful to the whole organization for inviting me, and I'm also thankful to Paramba Yoga Maya for suggesting my name to Samirji. And then I welcome you all, students and faculties of KIITs, and all Sanskrit lovers. So I'm going to speak to you all about Sanskrit as a language of inner engineering. And most of the times when I speak to the youth of India, it's a really sad state. I'm teaching in various universities and addressing thousands of youth in India. Today, the sad situation is that I'm not blaming the youth of India, but the system is such that it has cut off us completely from the very civilizational root of ours, our education system. We have hardly known about the rich cultural civilizational heritage that we have. And sometimes question comes because of our upbringing, because of our education. The question comes, what's the use of that? What's the use of that? The world is moving at a very fast speed, and today we are talking about artificial intelligence. Today we are talking about language processing. Today we are talking about machine translation. Today we are talking about all kinds of hype on the science and technology and engineering why should we look at Sanskrit? Or why should we look at the past heritage and today to the youth of India? The India means post-independence. Prior to that, even there is no idea about what kind of India existed. That's the situation. So where does it lead to? It leads to a very fundamental problem that when we start interacting with the world outside India, we're ridiculed. Our youth is ridiculed. That look, I'm telling you, this is the reality that you ask any Japanese person, any Japanese youth, that what is the soul of your nation? Ask any American child, what is the soul of America? Ask the youth of China, what is the soul of China? What is so central about China? What is so central to Japan? All these are very highly developed country. Ask them. They are aware of that. And I ask you this question not to answer me, but reflect upon it. Keep it with you. Try to find this answer. When you say Mera Bharat Mahan, what do you mean really? What can you describe? Why Mera Bharat Mahan? What exactly is the greatness of India? What is the soul of India? We have lost that. We have lost the contact with the very soul of India. We're not familiar with. That is why we ask questions which actually no Indian youth should ask. Every Indian youth is expected to know the true civilizational and cultural history of, of Bharat, of India. This is where we are completely cut off. And Sanskrit. Why I stress Sanskrit? Like when I came in contact with the writings of Sri Aurobindo and the mother for the first time, it's again our teachers who introduced us. So the very first, because I was a Sanskrit student, I was interested to know what Sri Aurobindo has said, what Swami Vivekananda has said, what the spiritual leaders, masters of the modern India have spoken about the Sanskrit language. So I came across a very powerful sentence or statement made by the mother of Sri Aurobindo Ashram, who said that every child born in India must learn Sanskrit, as every child born in France has to know French. You cannot expect a child born in France and doesn't know French. Yes, in India, we are a multilingual country. We should know, at least if not Sanskrit, our mother tongue. That also is missing. In India, I'm asking again this question, that how familiar you are with your own mother tongue, your level of vocabulary, your fluency in your own mother tongue, your understanding of your own mother tongue, your own local history, the literature in your own mother tongue. Hardly. I'm telling it from my own experience, interacting with the youth of India. This is the situation everywhere, in every state. If truly you want to see the spirit of India, go to the rural. 65% of India is rural. 35% is the urban India, which is leading. But the true spirit of India you can find in the rural India. So, which has preserved our cultural, civilizational practices. And the so-called educated, you know, I was listening to the interaction of Mahesh Sharmaji with a group of students in our university. I doubt all of you who are present here, if you have heard the name of Mahesh Sharmaji, who was given a Padma Shri 2 years before. So Mahesh Sharmaji works in Jhabua district in Madhya Pradesh. So he has brought transformation to the life of 4 crores tribal people in Jhabua district, all alone. In the sense, like he's at the center, he has his own team, he has created a team. I mean, one doesn't, a true leader doesn't have to create a team. He just have to become what he aspires to achieve, and everyone else will be getting attracted to him. So while giving his, interacting with the students of our university, so he narrated an anecdote when he was invited to IIT Mumbai to speak to the IIT students. So the person who was introducing him, like Samirji introduced me to you all today. So there was a professor who was introducing him. He said that he comes from a place where he is dealing with all the illiterate people. And Mahesh Sharmaji was not happy with the word, the adjective, the attribute that he put, illiterate. Then he narrated. He said when his turn came to speak, he said, yes, I'm coming from an area, a place where I'm dealing not with the illiterate people of your idea of illiterate. So I am dealing with those people who drink the cow's milk, not the packet milk. I'm dealing with those people. If a tiger comes, they are not afraid of. They simply lift a stone and then frighten the tiger. I'm dealing with those illiterate people. I'm dealing with those illiterate people, those who know how to lift water from the lower level to the higher level, which you engineers cannot do. The scientists, the technologists, they fail. Like water flows from up to down, but water doesn't go from down up, but 35 kilometers up. They are taking the water using some technology on which the scientists, the regional science center, is doing research that where from they learn this technique. So the whole knowledge system of India, which is so much preserved by the rural communities, we have lost that. The urban students, the urban youth has hardly any idea about it. Why? Because the rural people are well connected with the root, the civilizational and cultural root of India. And this is where each and every language in India, not just Sanskrit. Why Sanskrit? I will come to that part. But every language of India. If every language of India is well taken care of, we don't need to promote Sanskrit separately. Sanskrit is well taken care of. Because Sanskrit lives through each and every regional language. 70 to 80% of Sanskrit is there in every Indian language. Its vocabularies, its structure, its flavor, its spirit, its force, its rhythmic power. It's there in the regional language. We are completely caught up. Forget about Sanskrit, where the Indian youth is not connected with its own language. What we know is English. I don't say that you should not know English. If you didn't know English, even like today is the sad situation that I have to speak in English. I have no other choice, because if I start speaking in Sanskrit or in Odia or Bengali or Hindi, these are the languages I'm familiar with. So there will be a whole section of people who will run away from here, that they don't understand what I'm saying. Today we have no choice in India. This is a situation. There's no linked language which can make us one. And Sanskrit, when we are talking about this language, it's not just a language. I'll talk much about its practical value. That today question comes, that what is the use of learning this language? The practical value of learning it, I'll explain you using some modern scientific technological uh, terms or tools. That it's a language which has been there for so many uh, thousands of years. We don't know. Hardly anyone has uh, uh, fixed the date for Sanskrit, since when it is there. Extremely difficult question. Yet, applying the historical principles, the Europeans have certain idea about Sanskrit, the Indians have certain ideas about the history of this language, and we believe in India that it started with the creation. It started with the creation. And if we can find out the history of creation, then we can easily find out the history of Sanskrit. It has always been there ever since the creation began. That is the power of Sanskrit. And another beauty of this language is that today you go to, say, for example, we are talking about English. If some learned person who has learned Shakespeare, and he starts using the Shakespearean English and the literature that Shakespeare has created, if he starts putting it here in this forum, hardly anyone will understand. A language 200 years old form of English will hardly be understood by any one of us, even though however proficient we may be in English. This is the truth. But if you have a little knowledge of Sanskrit, you can understand the language which is used in the Veda, which is maybe 15,000, 25,000 years old. You can understand that with a little knowledge of Sanskrit, with a little knowledge of your own mother tongue properly. You can understand the Veda, you can understand the Upanishads, the simple Satyam Vada. Every Indian will understand. Dharmam Chara, every Indian will understand. Acharya Devo Bhava. I'm speaking the pure Sanskrit mantras and sutras from the Veda, from the Upanishads. Atithi Devo Bhava. For so many thousands of years, this is there with us. They say that it's a very difficult language. Yes, every language has difficulty. When I started learning English, because we learned, like our education was through Odia medium or Sanskrit medium. We hardly learn English. There was no need for it. I started English much later. After I completed my post graduation, you can say that the speaking English I started. But then I say that if I can learn speaking English and writing English with so much of effort, I know the difficulty. I mean, initially, like if you start giving English language to many illiterate people who are just beginning, so the future will be pronounced as future. BUT, if it is, it will be pronounced as boot. If PUT, if you have taught them that it is put, BUT will be pronounced as boot. What is the logic then? So you have in BUT, it is but, in PUT, it is put, In university, it is you. It's the same you, having so many different kinds of pronunciation. Look at the first letter A, which has so many, 6 different types of articulations. But Sanskrit, whatever character you see in the alphabet, it is pronounced all the time. It has only one sound, not two. Forget about 3, 4. It doesn't have a second pronunciation. The same way, for so many thousands of years, it is articulated in the same way. The Varnamala, so when we are talking about inner engineering, let me explain that, because this is the topic today. Why are we talking about inner engineering? What is inner engineering? Inner engineering is all about our well-being, our personal growth, the way we look at the world, our worldview, the vision that we have set before us, vision for our life. Inner engineering is all about the kind of clarity that we have in our mind, the mental psychological clarity. Inner engineering is all about our emotional balance. Inner engineering is all about how happy we are. If all these things do not matter to us, then what else should matter? We have all education, all qualification, we speak good English, we have a good package, we have everything, but we do not know how to remain happy. We do not know how to remain tranquil. We have no clarity in our mind. We have no control over our senses. We have no control over ourselves. What use of this life? Either to me or to others, to the world. It's all useless. So with all kinds of education, money, and everything we have, but if we do not have these core values in our life, then life is useless, miserable. Maximum of us, we are living a miserable life, suffering mentally, emotionally, physically. We are not swastha. See, how Sanskrit helps you to understand yourself. Each and every word in Sanskrit can explain the history of its own. It's so self-explanatory, so simple, so straightforward. Just look at the word swastha. And today what is needed, what the world needs is swasthata. Swastha, swasmin tishtati. That unless and until one is well settled within, one remains within oneself. One cannot have happiness. One cannot have peace. One cannot have that creative energy which can sustain oneself throughout the life or throughout the day. We are so weak physically, mentally, emotionally, psychologically, just weak. And our educational institutes are producing weak students. If you look at the ancient Gurukulas, when they sent the brahmacharis out of the Gurukula to lead Grihastha Jivan, Grihastha life, they sent physically, emotionally, mentally, psychologically strong personalities. Those who knew the science of swasthata. Only they can build a swastha samaj, a swastha desha, swastha rashtra. If the swasthata is not there in Vyakti, he cannot build that swasthata or bring that swasthata in the samashti, in the collectivity. This is where Sanskrit as a language, I'm not saying like what great literature is there in Sanskrit. As a language, the very design of the language, it teaches us so many things to remain swastha. Swasthata is all about the inner life. All of us, we're sitting here, or all those who are there, we see around. We are so much engaged with the outer world, with the projected self of ours. Look at our senses, eyes, ears, tongues. Our senses are designed in such a way that by default, so their projection is to the outer world. We see what is happening outside. We hear what sounds come from outside. We taste all outside food. Everything is outer, outer, outer. There's no engagement of ours with our own inner being. We know everything, but we do not know ourselves. The word is swastha. It reminds us, like when you are using your own language or using Sanskrit, you will repeatedly come in contact with such words, which creates this awareness. Like when you hear swastha, the very word itself reminds what it is, what I should be. Like I should always turn within to remain well-founded within myself. I do not become allured by the outer attractions, but I enjoy not the taste of the outer food, but the inner rasa. That is swasthata. The Veda speaks about, and what does it mean? Like when you know it speaks about swasthata, the Veda has a beautiful concept called swam damam, means one's own home. What is that one's own home? To be well settled in one's own home. It means to be well settled in Satyam, Ritam, and Brihat. These three words were so important to our ancient rishis who built such a great nation, great civilization that today, out of 45, 47 civilizations which the history has recorded, every civilization has gone into oblivion. It's just by name. The only living civilization which has a living presence after so many thousands of years is the Indian civilization. Why? It is because of this culture. It is because of this Sanskriti. Because of this strong Sanskriti that we have this great Sabhyata. The Sabhyata is the outer form. What you see in the outer form. Sanskriti is the inner life of a nation. What vision they had for the life? The vision was to remain well settled, well founded, well rooted in Satyam, Ritam, and Brihat. What are these three words? And this is where Sanskrit becomes a language of inner engineering, that the very understanding of these few words, the fundamental ideas that our rishis had about life, if we can understand that, if we can understand these key words given to us by our rishi parampara, the rishi tradition, that itself is sufficient to lead a life of swasthata. So it says Satyam, Ritam, and Brihat. Satyam is our existential truth. I exist, you exist, the world exists. This is Satyam. No one can deny it. No one can deny it. We don't need the science to prove it. I know I exist. You don't have to prove in the court and give proof that, yes, you see, I'm alive. No one will ask you this question. This is our existential truth, Satyam. But mere existential truth will not do anything. That we this is the static part of it. But in this creation, in this universe, we all are active, and our dynamism, our dynamic actions have to be rhythmic, have to have the order, have to have the symmetry, proportion, rhythm, beauty. So every rhythmic movement, every movement which has the order, that ordered truth is rhythm. If there is no order in life, if there is no symmetry in life, if there is no music, melody, sonority in life, life is dry. This is what is rhythm. So the very purpose of our life is to remain tuned to the music that is reverberating within every one of us. That is inner engineering. That one grows more and more aware of that rhythm which lies within, that music which lies within. And when one is in tune with that music, the whole being starts dancing with joy. That's the true happiness. That brings clarity, that brings peace. That gives us the experience of Brihat. Brihat means the Anantya, endlessness, the vast, large. Why? Why do we need to be in that large consciousness? Because all our sufferings, all our afflictions, all our problems, the entire problem that the humanity faces today is rooted in one cause, that is the narrowness of our consciousness, the Sankirnata. This is where the shift has to come. So as long as we are bound, limited by our own limitations, we all are Pashu. Look at the beauty of the word Pashu. Pashu means anything which is bound. It comes from the root sound Pash. That's why one needs to learn Sanskrit is in order to understand these words. No translation will help. Any translation will tell you that Pashu means animal. No one will explain you like why Pashu is animal. Only when you study Sanskrit, you will understand why Pashu is called animal. Pashu comes from the root sound Pash. Pash means to fix. It's from the same root sound you have the word Pashyati, the verbal form. Pashyati means to see. This is science. You cannot see unless and until vision is fixed. Seeing happens when the vision is fixed. If the vision is not fixed, you can't see. Pashyati. Look at how scientifically the ancient seers and sages have designed the very structure of the language from the root sound, from the seed sound. So Pash means to fix. If you possess a fixed mindset, you are Pashu. What is expected of us is to possess not a fixed mindset, fixed idea. It has to be a free, liberated from all kinds of limitations. If you have fixity, rigidity, obstinacy in the mind, you have no clarity. You are bound. Your ideas will be very limited ideas, narrow ideas. And that narrowness is with regard to everything, philosophy, literature, religion, polity, governance. That rigidity, that obstinacy, that narrowness is the root cause of all the problems that the humanity faces. This is where one has to, what is the purpose of life? Is to become free from that narrowness and attain to that state of Brihat. And what is the connection of this with Sanskrit? You can tell all these things using English or any other language. No, the point is that no translation is going to help you and then give the deeper understanding of any word. That if that is why it is an untranslatable language. Untranslatable language. You can interpret it. A single word can be interpreted using 1,000 pages, or millions of words, single word. There's so much of potential. That's why precision, like that precision that you find in mathematics, in algorithm, in the machine language, you'll find it in the language, very design of the language. There's no language in the world which has a sutra form of composition. Sutra. Just a single line. Can you believe that Panini in 800 BCE gives us a text which is all the times regarded as the biggest grammar book in the world. Just imagine the biggest grammar book in the world. How thick it will be, how many volumes it will be. You can't even imagine. But it is the smallest book in the world. You can carry Panini's Ashtadhyayi in your pocket. Just very simple, very short sentences, around 4,000 sentences. You can print it on 20 A4 size sheets and carry it in your pocket. Biggest grammar book, and which is a generative grammar, which deals with more than 300 millions of vocabularies. Unimaginable. And that's the reason why today, and the technique which Panini employed in creating this text is the same technique which today the software scientists, the computer scientists are using to create different programs. In Panini, you cannot disturb a single letter anywhere in the text. If you disturb a single letter, the entire text will become corrupt. Entire text will become corrupt. Nothing will work. And that is why today almost every computer scientist is taking interest in studying Panini, studying Sanskrit. They will be able to, a computer scientist, a software engineer, will be in a better position to explain Sanskrit than me, than a Sanskrit professor, because they understand the whole technique. And today it's growing. How many computer scientists today are taking interest in Sanskrit and studying Panini, spending much of their time, investing their money, time, energy for studying Sanskrit, mastering Sanskrit. Because the very structure is so scientific, the very alphabet of it is so scientific that in the whole world you will not find such a scientific, systematic Varnamala or alphabet. Due to the lack of any other word in English, I'm using alphabet, but alphabet doesn't, alphabet is not same as Varnamala or Akshar Samana. If you can understand the science behind the alphabet and look at our tradition, Kashmir Shaivism, all the tantric tradition, the philosophical tradition, the Vedic tradition, every tradition has given so much of importance, and so much of literature is available today with regard to Varnamala, just 48 sounds. One can spend one's own whole life to understand this 48 sounds. the Varnamala. And if one understands Varnamala, one understands everything in the world. Every philosophy you understand, every science you will understand. How? That's where we need to come in contact with the language and the learn it. I myself have done so many experiments with regard to Varnamala. So many experiments. I've never found in any Gurukul a student who is studying in Gurukul and has developed any kind of speech related disorders or disability, stammering. The very language, if you start speaking, it doesn't allow any kind of speech related disorders or disabilities, because the entire nervous system, all the speech related articulatory organs, they get activated because the sounds are arranged here so systematically. It takes care of the places of pronunciation. It takes care of the intraoral pressure that one needs. It takes care of the entire, it takes care of the contact that you should have while articulating with different articulatory organs. So systematic and so scientific that you will never find such an alphabet in anywhere in the world. I can go on speaking about, like for so many days only on the alphabet, Varnamala. If you know what is the difference between the vowel and consonant, just ask this question to yourself. Do you know what is the difference between vowel and consonant? 99% people, adults, educated people would not know what is the difference between vowel and consonant. Ask your English teachers, ask your language teachers, they will not be able to explain. But Sanskrit explains you right from the beginning. It gives you the science of knowing that. There's a science of knowing that you will know just by coming in contact with Sanskrit and learning it in a system. That defines, and this is a universal definition which Sanskrit gives, by which you can identify the difference between vowels and consonants of any language in the world, whether you know it, you don't know it. Asprishta means sounds produced with no contact. Sprishta means sounds produced with contact. That's the simple definition of a vowel and a consonant, and the difference between vowel and consonant. All vowels are free-flowing sounds, contactless sounds. You can sing the vowel sounds, e, u. There's no contact. If you know this is how it teaches you the science of knowing, that you know. All consonants are sounds with contact. You cannot say pa without bringing both the lips in contact with each other. You cannot say ta without bringing the tip of the tongue in contact with the center of your roof. Ta. There has to be solid contact. So it takes care of every aspect of phonetics, and then based on this, it has our ancient seers and sages and scientists and grammarians, philosophers, they have made such a systematic arrangement of the sounds in the Varnamala that it is one of the greatest system of alphabet in the world. I'm not glorifying it. It is an accepted fact. Anyone would accept it. This is where Sanskrit, and then how it helps in inner engineering, how it helps in maintaining my well-being, how it helps in my giving clarity. Yes, I say that if you have learned the Varnamala, and you are repeating the Varnamala starting from A to H every day with clarity. You don't need to do any yogasana, and you don't need to do any pranayama. I'm telling you. I mean, I'm not saying that you should not do, but much of it will be taken care of because there is an inbuilt system of a pranayama in the Varnamala itself. When you say ka, and then after that you say ka. See, with ka, you release minimum air. You become more focused, more concentrated. Immediately when you say ka, you are releasing the air. And again, you are saying ga, you are in gathering, you are in a concentrated state. Then you say ga, again you are expanding. When you say ka, kha, ga, gha, you can feel that as if the Varnamala is breathing by releasing minimum and maximum air. The pranayam takes care, is well taken care of. And the last sound of each group is a oronasal sound. You say na. It's a very different, very unique kind of pranayama which takes place when you say na, where the breath release is simultaneous both through the nose and the mouth. If you have migraine, if you have sinus problem, if you have nasal congestion, just repeat the last sound of each group. Ma, na, na, nya. Panini has formulated a sutra where he puts all these 5 sounds. Nyamangananam. Repeat it. I got rid of my own sinus problem and nasal congestion by repeating it continuously. And you can ask your doctor, he will explain why it helps, how it activates the whole, cellular and nervous aspects here in this area. So this is where Sanskrit has an inbuilt system of a pranayama, which helps immensely in keeping our inner being in a good condition. Each and every sound in the Varnamala has its own root experience where it helps in understanding the words derived from these seed sounds. Bija mantra, it's a mantric language. Bija mantra, the mantra chanting. You go to, I mean, today, many people have done scientific research on how the chanting of mantra has impact on the human consciousness, and especially how it helps in creating a healthy brain, how it brings mental clarity. There's an iota of doubt about it because these are all scientifically proven facts. How the Gayatri Mantra chanting is helping. Recently, 2 days before, one of my students got PhD under my guidance. So I had given her the topic like how the different metrical patterns, the chandas, the vrittas that we have, it has a direct impact on our neurological functioning of our entire being. She did a lot of scientific experiments in a lab and then came out with a whole PhD thesis. These are all proven facts. So Sanskrit being very logical, very systematic, scientific in its nature, and a highly rhythmic language, musical, melodious language, it is well connected with our own inner being. And then if we can learn it properly, use the language consciously, it will lead to that state of swasthata, which is the result of all inner engineering. But the choice lies with every one of us, with every one of you, whether you would like to go for Sanskrit or you want to ignore it. Thank you all. So with these words, I will just end my deliberation. If